Alright, so hello. I'm not there today, as I've already explained to y'all. But what I wanted to do is I wanted to be able to explain to you what you need to do today. You should have already received a card for this activity. This activity should probably take you about half of the class. What this is doing is it wants you to get into taking a look at the book, taking a look at the evidence there, but also kind of anticipating some of the clashes that we're about to have. Because the history of the West is really tied into American environmental history. This clash about who should own the West, what should we do with the West, and those resources. How should we best use the resources of our country to the benefit of the most people, and how that's actually going to occur. We want to conserve the land, but we also want to use the resources from it. So you've been given a card, either conservationist or business interest, and you're going to have to look in chapter 26 and read between the lines here. You're going to have to find some evidence that your side could use to build an argument that either the resources need to be owned by companies or the federal government should exploit those resources, meaning mining those resources, chopping up the prairie into individual farms and having people farm those, create massive ranches. We should impound the water behind dams and use that for hydroelectric power. All of these things go into resource exploitation, both renewable and non-renewable. And it says conversation. Yeah. Conservation would be the exact opposite, that there's something special about this land, that it should be protected from large amounts of development, that the farms, if the farms are to be created, they should be smaller, they should be family farms. Alright, so those are the things that you need to do with that first one. And again, you're basically looking through there and you're creating a thesis and basically outlining your evidence. Not a whole paper, one paragraph, basically a short answer question is what I'm looking for here. That's what you got to give me. So go ahead and do that. That'll take you about 30 minutes, 45 minutes. If it takes any longer than that, we're kind of getting off into the wrong territory as far as the depth is concerned, or you haven't read chapter 26 before, and that's a problem into itself. So we need to do that really quickly, and then what I need for you to do, and I'm going to post this on the classroom account so that you can watch it over and over if you need to get these directions again. You're going to be getting into these graphic organizers for populism. So let's take a look at the first one. The first one's going to be the causation, populism. So what you're looking for this is taking a look at what the populists are angry about, what are the causes of their anger, what's motivating them to organize. So put those causes over here and detail them. Why are they upset at the railroad owners? Why are they upset at the bank? Why are they upset at the government and how our elections go? And then the effect. What's the effect of that? What do they put in their platform? What do they get accomplished? What is their impact on the United States? And then at the bottom, most important cause, right, and why, and what's the least important cause and why. That one's pretty straightforward. Go ahead and knock that one out and move on. And any of this that you don't get done, you need to do for homework and bring in on Thursday when we get back together, when I'm back in. Alright, so interpretation for the populace. Now this one, admittedly, you're probably going to need to do a little bit of research, especially as far as the impact of the populace here in this first interpretation. I'm not going to do that first part for you. I'm kind of tempted to do that part for you, but I really think you can do it. But the first one, when you're talking about the specific historical evidence to support A and B, that's where I need for you to do a little bit of research, either from your reading or you can go online. For the first one, talks about the criticism that swept through political affairs from the 1890s to the First World War. Research that. There's a movement called the progressive movement that you can work in there, but try to figure out the connection between the populists and the progressives. True, we haven't been over progressivism yet, but if you research that really quickly, I think you're going to be able to see some connections that you can use. All right, and then do the same thing with B if you need to. This one's a little bit more upfront as far as the challenge the populace face in the South. And then the third thing I need for you to do is to take a look at Frederick Jackson Turner's frontier thesis. And you're going to be comparing, again, the interpretation of Frederick Jackson Taylor, and then down here, Patricia Nielsen Limerick with What on Earth is New Western History. The frontier thesis is a huge deal as far as our conception of the West and its importance in American life, how it makes us different from Europe. Frederick Jackson Turner has some opinions about that, and then Limerick has some. She's challenging Taylor's interpretation, or not Taylor's. Taylor's a different guy. Turner's interpretation of Western significance in our history. Okay, now that's designed to be Tuesday and Tuesday night homework. Wednesday, what I need for you to do, I'm not sure if it'll pull up really quickly, but Wednesday you're going to be dealing with the Wizard of Oz. The Wizard of Oz being an allegory, or possibly being an allegory. So what you have is you have a paper. It's about 12 pages long, and what it is actually the first time in which this idea that the Wizard of Oz was a parable on populism was put down on paper, and that's a whole lot of alliteration. But this is a high school teacher, and in 1964 he publishes this paper showing the connections between what was going on in the Wizard of Oz and comparing it to the populist movement. Now, again, I think it's pretty obvious to most that this is Wizard of Oz the book and not necessarily the movie. We'll watch clips from the movie on Thursday, but this is more based on the book, and it becomes very apparent if you're reading through here that it is on the book. But it's 12 pages of reading. Read through it, and then there is another thing that I need for you to work on. This, the Wizard of Oz comparison sheet. So what you're going to do is if you read the article, this is going to be really easily done really easily. You have the populist character, you have the Wizard of Oz character. You match those up, and then you compare them. You make the connections. Why is the average American who they are? Why is the industrial worker who they are? And then on the back, you're going to have some questions diving deeper into the allegory. Do you trust this allegory? Do you believe it? Not everybody agrees that this was a populist parable. And we'll kind of discuss that on Thursday. But where do you think that his theory, his allegory, what parts of it do you see as being the strongest? If it was an allegory, that these connections are really good. Which comparisons do you think are the weakest? And what questions would you have little filled about his theory? Now on Thursday when we get back together, we'll go over these. We'll take a look at what parts you think are the strongest, what parts you think are the weakest, and where we could kind of flesh some of this controversy out. Alright, but this is all of the instructions for today and tomorrow's class. So this is essentially what I'm asking you to get done in 2 days. There's a little bit of maturity level here in making sure that you pace yourself. Again, that first stuff was supposed to be done Tuesday into Tuesday night for homework. This really should be done on Wednesday during class. If you have anything, whether from Tuesday or Wednesday, to finish up, you need to finish up on Wednesday night. Bring it in. I'm expecting all of this to be done and ready to go on Thursday. Alright, and I will see you then.